Well, what does all of this mean for continental Europe? Here in Germany, politicians are scrambling to react to it. Of course, they've all been considering the different scenarios. Our correspondent Charlotte Potts is down at the Reichstag, at Germany's Bundestag, the parliament, following reactions from members of parliament, and joins us now. Good morning, Charlotte.
Good morning. Good morning. I'm here with Mr. Steinbrück, former finance minister of Germany, a member of the Social Democrats. So let me get right to Mr. Steinbrück. What does this mean for Germany? What does this Brexit mean for Germany?
Well, I guess the crucial question is, what does it mean for the UK? And I mean the entire UK, not only England. And I think it will England to weaken economically and politically. But undoubtedly, it will harm Europe as well. And in those times in which we are facing a lot of, crises and challenges around Europe, and against the background of a rapidly changing global pattern.
How do you think Germany's role has to change now within the European Union?
Well, I think, we must be, I'm convinced that we have to pay more money because the net transfer of the UK will not any longer. And so that means that that Germany is more responsible than ever to pay for the European Union.
As a former finance minister, we just heard that the DAX already dropped 10%. So what consequences is this going to have for the financial markets, for the stability of financial Europe?
Nobody can figure out that exactly just this morning after the referendum has happened. But I think for some time as well, the United Kingdom and Europe will face a turndown, an economic turndown. But hopefully we will survive.
Looking forward, what do German politicians now have to do to re-establish trust in the European Union? What needs to happen now?
Well, I think Europe is not the same as before the referendum. And I think this was a shrill alarm bell which rings that we have to undertake stronger achievements to reconstruct and to reinvent the European Union. And the exit of the United Kingdom, in my eyes, it should not be a prejudice for other countries. So we have to discuss about the rules, the procedures of Europe again. And I think we have to take care to maintain the European Union.
Thank you so much, Mr. Steinbrück. And now back to you.
Thank you so much, Charlotte. Charlotte Potts there talking to former German Finance Minister Per Steinbrück, saying that the European Union needs to reinvent and reconstruct itself. Well, there are a lot of pieces being put back together today, a lot of question marks hanging over financial markets, too. There has been something of an earthquake on the markets. Monica has the story.
We are going to stay in Germany. Of course, Germany is the largest EU member and has provided decisive leadership in many a crisis in the last few decades. For more reaction here, let's bring in our correspondent, Charlotte Potts. She is standing by in the Chancellery, where Chancellor Angela Merkel is about to give a news conference. Hi, Charlotte. Merkel was very clear about wanting the UK to stay in the EU. How much of a blow is this result going to be for her?
Hi, I'm Rita. Let me just start by saying I'm here in the Chancellery. Merkel is about to speak in a few minutes, so I will have to stop immediately if she comes on stage. This indeed is a blow for her. She's always said that she doesn't have a plan B for Britain leaving the European Union. And she didn't have a plan B, she said, because she believed that the British voters would decide differently. So this is a huge blow for her. We are thinking that she will present some kind of plan now in this press conference. But most certainly the atmosphere here in Germany is people are very disappointed. The politicians are very disappointed. I've talked to a lot of members of parliament this morning who said it's a Black Friday for the European Union. It's sobering. It is a huge disappointment. And now the focus is really on how do we move forward in the European Union without the British.
Now, we understand there have been some urgent meetings this morning. How is Germany expected to respond?
Yeah, so this morning Merkel is actually meeting with party leaders at this hour. The party leaders already met this morning in a separate meeting at the German Parliament. Next week on Tuesday there is going to be an extra session of the German Parliament where this will be discussed. So we are expecting Merkel to present some kind of plan now on how to move forward. Of course, there has to be some kind of political and financial reconciliation on how the European Union will work without Britain, and that will be the focus. But Merkel will also have to present some kind of new idea. That's what the MPs said to me this morning. They said, you need to figure out how to move forward in the European Union, how to prevent spillover effects, prevent other countries from leaving, how to get back that excitement for the European Union as a union. So we are expecting Merkel to talk about that. And of course, financially, for Germany, it is very interesting because Great Britain was a huge contributor money-wise and for the European Union, and now Germany will have to pay probably a larger share, as the former finance minister of Germany told me this morning.
And of course, another aspect is that Germany has always come across as very pro-European, not just at the government level, but also among the people. But we have to remind ourselves, they are Eurosceptics in this country as well.
Of course, yeah. I mean, on the upside, let's start with that. 80% of Germans still believe that the European Union, being a member of the European Union, is a good thing. Only 17% would approve a referendum, a possible referendum here in Germany. So the majority of Germans is still behind the European Union. But we also see the rise of the Alternative for Germany, the party, right-wing populist party that has been very strong in regional elections in the past month, and is actually polling at around 20% if there were national elections to be held. And that party was founded on the grounds of being anti-European sentiment. They now switched their rhetoric a little bit against more against migration issues, but still. Today, those leaders of Alternative for Germany, they actually tweeted, this is a great day for Europe. It's a great sign that Britain is leaving it. This is basically the end of the European Union. So they are trying to portray this as a success and as if they had called it before. So this might give them some popularity amongst certain groups in Germany.
And of course, in that view by the AfD is also echoed by other populist anti-Eurosceptic parties in Europe. Charlotte, I'm going to leave you now while we wait for the Chancellor to speak. And when she does start speaking, we'll come back to you. Thank you very much for now. To go to one of our other political correspondents, Charlotte Potts, who was at the German Chancellery listening to Chancellor Angela Merkel make those comments. Hi, Charlotte. What did you and what did people there make of Chancellor Angela Merkel's comments?
I mean, you could tell today that she was pretty shaken up. She called it a huge regret that Britain leaves the European Union. She calls that a turning point, which are very strong words for her. And she came out looking a little exhausted. I think these are all signs that she really had not expected it. I was mentioning before when we last talked, she said she had not had a plan B because she just didn't expect Britain to leave. Now it has happened, and her plan moving forward, she said the European idea needs to be rethought. She reminded, as Hans just mentioned, of the World War, of centuries of war, and that the European Union was built to bring peace to this continent. So she was clearly trying to emphasize that the European idea needs to live on, and that it can only live on if all the member states, if the new 27 members of the European Union work together very strongly.
That's right, because she ended on a fairly upbeat note, saying that the European Union was strong enough to weather this storm as well. And she's, of course, taken decisive leadership on many other crises. Now, when we were talking earlier, you also talked about how important Britain was to the European Union from a financial point of view. Now that Britain has voted to leave, what are the implications for the EU and for Germany in particular on this issue?
Well, Britain and Germany are both one of the biggest financial contributors to the European Union now that Britain is gone. And of course, this will take a little time, and Merkel emphasized that as well. Britain is not going to leave from today to tomorrow, but that this process will, of course, take time. But now that Britain will be gone, Germany will have to pay more, will take a greater share of that of that contribution to the European Union. I talked to the former financial minister this morning, and he emphasized that without that, it wouldn't work. So for sure, that bigger financial share is going to be something that will be discussed and will most likely also strengthen those sentiments here in Germany that are actually anti-European.
Right, Charlotte Potts, lots for people to digest there. As you said, Chancellor Merkel probably didn't have a plan B. Most leaders didn't. So now they have to work out and go into damage control. But thank you very much for covering that really important press conference for us. Not just Germans, but the world had been waiting to hear what Chancellor Angela Merkel had to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, not just the government, we've also keen to get some reactions from the general public. We went out on the streets of the German capital to find out what people here think about the Brexit. We found many people are really unhappy that Britain has rejected the EU, but not everyone. Have a listen.
It's a disaster. It feels like the beginning of the end. I hope not, of course, but I'm worried it might be.
Now, that was German Chancellor Angela Merkel talking within the past half an hour. Our correspondent, Charlotte Potts, was there. She listened to her. Charlotte, Merkel seemed quite calm when she was speaking, but surely she must have been hugely disappointed by the outcome of that Brexit referendum.
Yeah, I think she was. I'm still here in the Chancellery. You can see that empty stage behind me with the German and European flag. This room was absolutely crowded with journalists before, and yeah, you could tell that she was that she was disappointed for sure. She used very strong words, which she usually doesn't. She said it's a turning point for Europe. She said that she regrets the decision of the British, but then she was very calm and collected, and she actually was looking forward. She was making a plan that she hadn't announced before this referendum. She always said she does not have a plan B because she wants Great Britain to stay, and she believes in the British voters that they will vote stay, remain. But here she presented a plan, and the plan is threefold, so to say. She said the European member states now have to address the frustrations of those that are carrying those anti-European sentiments and get to the bottom of where those frustrations come from. One issue is certainly migration. The second is that she says now it's more important than ever that the European leaders are working together and that they are going to work on a plan forward. And the third one being that she reminded us of the ideals of the European Union. She was saying, you know, we founded the European Union because we wanted democracy and freedom and security to be in all these countries. And she reminded us also of the horrific events of the Second World War and of the centuries of war that the continent had gone through until we had the European Union.
Right, Charlotte Potts, thank you very much for that. And of course, you're standing in the room where Chancellor Merkel spoke just a short while ago.
Thank you.
So well, if that Brexit result caught the politicians unawares and somewhat unprepared, just think of the markets. They are... German Chancellor Angela Merkel reacting to that Brexit referendum just a short while ago. Our political correspondent, Charlotte Potts, was there and heard her speak and joins me now. Hi, Charlotte. Merkel seemed really calm while she was speaking, but this must be a massive disappointment for her.
It certainly is a big disappointment for her. I mean, she's always said she would hope that the British would decide to stay in the European Union. In the beginning of her statement, she said she regrets the decision of the British people, that she then she started to be very calm and collected and was looking forward. She actually presented a plan. She said that the frustrations that people feel, the anti-European sentiments within the European Union need to be addressed now, that the 27 remaining leaders need to work closely together. And she reminded the European people on the foundations and the values that the European Union was founded on, democracy and freedom. So she painted a vision for a European Union going forward. She will meet those leaders, as you mentioned, on Monday here in Berlin, and then they will certainly have to talk about a political and financial reconstitution of the European Union. meaning that Britain was a huge contributor financially to the European Union. Germany might have to step up, as the former finance minister told me this morning. So yes, disappointment here in Berlin by all German politicians across the aisles, very much across the aisles and across the parties, is huge.
And Charlotte Merkel did end her comments by saying that Europe would survive this Brexit crisis. Now, as you said, she's meeting other European leaders on Monday. Will her call to them be the EU must stay united to survive?
Yeah, exactly. That is her call. The European leaders must stay united. They must take the decisions now together going forward. She's expecting some of the European leaders, including Hollande, here on Monday, and they will address also those underlying frustrations, she said, that are sparking the anti-European sentiment. I'm talking about migration here. That has been a huge issue, has been driving the vote in Britain. That most certainly is also an issue here in Germany, where those anti-migration and somehow anti-European feelings are also slowly growing, though it is still a minority. But these root causes of these anti-European sentiments, she said, those things will also be addressed by the leaders on Monday.
Right, Charlotte Potts outside the Chancellery in Berlin, thank you very much for that.